My name is Lydia Clark, and I am 29 years old. I grew up in a lively household in Cedar Grove, surrounded by the love of my parents and the playful banter of my two brothers. Cedar Grove was a small town where everything felt familiar, where flowers bloomed in vibrant colors, and the sun cast a warm glow over the bakery storefront every morning. I could still remember the distinct aroma of freshly baked bread wafting through the open windows, mingling with the sweet scent of cinnamon rolls and vanilla frosting. My mother was the heart of our family's bakery, a charming establishment with a bright red door and windows that sparkled in the sunlight. I could see her standing behind the counter, flour dusting her apron like powder snow. "Good morning, my sweet customers," she would sing, her voice flowing melodically. She embodied warmth, welcoming everyone that stepped through our doors as if they were family. I often watched with admiration as she spoke to the regulars. Each story she recounted about our family's history intertwined with the loaves of bread and the pies that graced our shelves. Her ability to find joy in the simplest of things was a lesson she unknowingly imparted to me, a beacon of how I wanted to raise my own family one day. When I became a mother at 23, it felt like stepping into a beloved story that was half written. Excitement bubbled within me as I envisioned playful afternoons with my children, baking alongside them in our family kitchen, passing down my mother's recipes, and sharing laughter that rang through the halls just like it once did in our bustling household. However, beneath the surface of that joy, darkness lingered like a storm cloud on the horizon. Whispers of jealousy began to taint my idyllic memories, particularly during our annual family gatherings, a cherished tradition where love and togetherness were supposed to mix like the ingredients in my mother's famous cakes. That summer, as I arrived at the bakery's backyard, the familiar sight of blooms bursting in colors greeted my eyes, but something felt profoundly different. The usual excitement fizzled away, replaced by a heavy tension that seemed to cling to the air. I noticed my brothers standing together, sharing murmurs that felt out of place against the sounds of laughter and the sizzling on the grill. Their faces were obscured by shadows, and I could sense the bitterness in their voices as they leaned closer, exchanging glances laden with unspoken words that pricked at my heart. I forced myself to look away, but the unease gnawed at me. "Lydia, come help with the salads." My mother called, her bright blue eyes sparkling as she motioned towards the long table under the old oak tree where she'd meticulously arranged the plates and cutlery. Her smile was warm, radiant even, but I was too preoccupied with the questions swirling in my mind. What were my brothers plotting? Why did they look at her with disdain, their laughter twisting like dark vines around my heart? "Sure, Mom," I replied, attempting to summon the same joy she wore. As I moved in her direction, I caught snippets of their hushed conversation. "It's time we take charge," one brother said, his voice dripping with an arrogance that made my stomach churn. "Mom is stuck in the past. This bakery needs fresh ideas. She's no longer fit to run this place." Those words cut deeper than I could ever express. Once I reached my mother, I forced a smile that felt like a mask. "Everything looks amazing, Mom," I said, putting on my best enthusiastic tone, but I could barely hide the strain in my voice. "Thank you, sweet girl. It's not the same without you and your smile," she returned, oblivious to the tension that had settled like a heavy shroud around us. I nodded silently, the fire I felt inside growing stronger, fueled by the betrayal I sensed. I watched them from the corner of my eye as they continued their discourse, not stopping as they threw harsh comments like arrows toward her. "Why do you even bother baking so much? No one craves your dried-up cakes anymore," my other brother sneered before bursting into raucous laughter. My heart sank as I saw my mother flinch, her shoulders dropping slightly. That was the moment I knew I could no longer remain silent. I felt a whirlwind of emotions: anger, sadness, determination. My heart raced as I squeezed my eyes shut, willing the pain to go away, but it didn't work. I took a deep breath, straightened my spine, and the world faded around me. "Hey, why are you saying those things?" I called out, my voice carrying more strength than I felt inside. The laughter died, replaced by a sweltering silence. "Lydia, stay out of this," my oldest brother warned, his expression shifting from amusement to something colder, something harsh. "You wouldn't understand what it's like to run a business. You're just focused on your little family. Leave the real work to us." "No." "You're wrong," I countered, my words spilling out like spilled flour. Mom poured her heart into this place. She doesn't deserve to be treated like this. You're her sons, for heaven's sake. My voice trembled, filled with a mix of fear and fury. Yeah, well, things change, he snapped back, a smirk twisting his lips. We are just preparing for the future. His callousness made my blood boil, but it was their mockery of her love that truly ignited a fire deep within me. I could see my mother's fragile smile faltering, and it broke something inside of me. With every word they said, betrayal wove itself tighter around me, and I felt nauseous at the thought of letting it be. My resolve crystallized then and there. I would not let my mother suffer any more at their hands. No, that would not happen on my watch. As the family gathering progressed, my resolve became a fortress, shielding me from the pain of their words. The vibrant decorations around us, the laughter of my children on the fringes, the tantalizing aroma of the grilled burgers, everything that once felt warm and comforting now seemed tainted. I looked at my mother, who kept a serene expression, even as my brothers mocked her baking attempts. Each light-hearted quip was a blade, and my heart bled for her. "Mom, can I have a taste of your blueberry pie?" My little one squeaked, tugging at my apron as I tried to stay focused on my mother's face. "It looks so yummy." "Of course, my sweet darling," she replied, her voice softening, and I could see the loving glint in her eyes as she dished out a slice, her smile hiding the quivers within. I felt rage bubbling inside me. How dare they attack her passion? That evening, with the sun dwindling behind the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I began to map out my plan. I couldn't let it go on like this. They wanted to take away everything she built, everything she cherished. I would make them see how wrong they were. I imagined a tapestry of vengeance, a well-crafted plan that would unravel their schemes like thread pulled from a garment. They think they could overthrow her beloved bakery. They would learn quickly that their brotherly ties meant nothing when faced with the fierceness of a daughter's love. The gathering ultimately wore on, laughter and chatter filling the air, but I found myself retreating into my own thoughts more frequently, plotting my revenge against the brothers who threatened the very foundation of my mother's legacy. I envisioned all the details of my scheme, flashes of how I would outmaneuver them. Each idea, each thread of my plan entwined like the layers of dough I once watched my mother knead so tenderly. The fire inside raged on, each moment sharpening my focus. They miscalculated their alliances, thinking they were stronger than the bond of love that held our family together. Once the day started to wind down, and my brothers finally retreated to the kitchen, huddled together for a conspiratorial whisper, I stealthily moved closer. Their malicious laughter echoed between the walls, instilling fury within me. "Look at her, pretending she runs things," my oldest brother scoffed. "She's too sentimental to see the truth. This bakery deserves a fresh start." Without her? Right then, I knew it was time to act, to wield the power of honesty as a weapon against them, to protect the woman who had poured her heart into everything we cherished. With my heart racing, resolute in my determination, I pieced together the web of my schemes. I would turn their plotting against them, leading them to unknowingly sabotage their own efforts while my mother emerged unscathed and even more cherished. They had no idea who they were up against. As day turned to night, I could feel the weight of the betrayal pressing heavily on my shoulders, transforming into purposeful intensity. I would rise from the ashes of their treachery. A storm was brewing, and I would harness it all to protect the woman I loved most, the woman who had given so much, only to be met with disdain. Revenge coursed through my veins, a promise of retribution that was not merely personal, but a tribute to my mother's unwavering strength and love. The fight for my family was just beginning, and I was ready to unleash my plan, my truth, and soon, the reckoning they would never see coming. The calm before the storm was over. The sun began to dip beyond the horizon, casting golden rays that poured through the large windows of our family bakery. I stood in the back, surrounded by the comforting smells of freshly baked goods, cinnamon, sugar, and that unmistakable warmth of bread, all mingling together to create a sense of home. But that comfort felt distant, nearly suffocated under the weight of my impending confrontation with my brothers. I knew what they were planning. I could practically hear their greedy whispers from the dining room. It was a betrayal so deep that it cut me to the bone. The thought of losing the bakery, our family legacy, gripped my heart with icy fingers. I had gathered documents, cold evidence of their deceit, but now I needed guidance, a steady hand to help me navigate the treacherous waters ahead. I took a deep breath, drawing in the scent of cinnamon once more, and stepped toward the back of the bakery where my grandfather was kneading dough with the kind of gentle determination that only he possessed. His weathered hands moved with a rhythm that spoke of decades spent baking, of love and sweat poured into every loaf. He was a quiet man, and often he'd been overlooked in our family's loud, competitive games and arguments. But I had always known there was wisdom in his silences, wisdom that could guide me now. "Grandpa," I said, my voice almost getting swallowed by the sounds of the dough slapping against the wooden counter. He looked up, his blue eyes shimmering with pride and warmth. "Yes, Lydia." I took a hesitant step closer, my heart pounding as I fished into my pocket for the documents I had so carefully collected. "I need to talk to you about something serious." My words trembled as I spoke them, but the gravity of the situation forced me onward. "What is it, dear?" He wiped his flour-covered hands on his apron, his gaze steady on me, as if sensing my turmoil. "It's about Noah and Ethan," I began, clutching the documents tightly, feeling the paper crinkle against my palm. "I found proof that they want to take money from the bakery. They want to siphon off funds for some scheme of theirs." I paused, hoping the weight of my words would settle in, that he would understand the gravity of what I was saying. He frowned slightly, his expression shifting to one of concern as he accepted the papers from my trembling hands. My grandfather didn't just glance through them. He examined every word, his brow furrowing deeper with each line he read. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken fears that seemed to hang in the air like the sweet scent of the pastries. "Lydia," he finally said, his voice a whisper wrapped in intensity, "we must protect your mother and this family." His hand shook slightly as he placed the documents down, a deep sense of urgency settling over us. The tightening knot in my stomach shifted slightly, replaced by a rush of determination. "What can we do?" I asked, eager to act, to fight back against the treachery lurking so close to home. He looked thoughtful for a moment, tapping his fingers against the counter, the sound echoing in the quiet of the bakery. "We need to draw them out, expose their plans before they can act. Perhaps we can create a distraction, something that lures them into revealing their true intentions." Nodding vigorously, I let the idea take root in my mind. I could feign interest in expanding the bakery. Maybe I could talk to them about new investments or grand ideas I have. The more I spoke, the more I spun a story, watching as my grandfather's expression shifted from concern to a small smile of approval. "Exactly. If they think they are leading the conversation, they will reveal their ambitions," he encouraged. "It is crucial we remain calm, though. We do not want them to suspect a thing while we handle this." The plan began to blossom, and we worked together to cement the details, crafting a web that would ensnare my brothers. The warmth of the bakery, once a comforting cocoon, now became a foreboding place where betrayal brewed beneath the surface. As the week crawled towards that fateful family dinner, I found myself rehearsing my role endlessly. Each time I imagined my brothers' reactions, a fire ignited within me, a bright spark that propelled me forward. They would come to our table, masked by their bravado and ambition, while I would wait to unveil the truth. I could almost hear the clinking of cutlery, the happy chatter of family mingling with celebratory laughter, yet all I felt was the tightness of anxiety wrestling in my chest. The evening had arrived, and I stood at the head of the dining table dressed in a light blue blouse that contrasted against the warm tones of our family kitchen. Once again, I inhaled the familiar smells swirling around me. My heart raced as I watched my brothers in the living room, their animated gestures spilling ideas about acquisitions and new recipes, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. "Did you hear about the new place that opened downtown?" Noah exclaimed, his excitement infectious. "We could model our expansion after them. Imagine the profits. We could do live baking demonstrations and make the place a tourist hotspot." Ethan chimed in with exaggerated bravado. "Yeah, and we can hire more staff. Just think of all the money we could pull in. We could overhaul the entire bakery." I felt my muscles tense. Their words dripped with greed, and their eyes burned with reckless ambition. Luckily, I had mastered the art of keeping my expression neutral, allowing a warm smile to settle on my face as I leaned in closer, feigning interest. "Those are great ideas," I said, my voice steady, lathered in the same sweet tone that once characterized our family gatherings. "What about expanding our product line?" "I've done some research, and there are great opportunities in organic pastries. It's all the rage right now." They turned their heads towards me, surprise mingling with eagerness in their expressions. You're right, organic. It's a trend we must jump on, Noah replied, scratching his chin thoughtfully as if truly weighing my suggestion. Lydia, that's brilliant, Ethan added, his eyes twinkling with excitement. We could attract a whole new customer base, maybe even put in a coffee bar to go with it. Barely suppressing my internal turmoil, I drove the point home. Exactly. And if we invest now, we could recoup the costs very quickly. Think of how much we could build on our family brand. As they spoke, I felt the tension crackle in the air, my grandfather's subtle presence nearby steering the brothers' attention, fostering their ambition into a tangible force. It was an exhilarating dance of deception, one that I choreographed with care to trap them in their own snare. My grandfather expertly diverted their focus to the phantom financial issue, discussing the need for transparency in our expenditures, giving me a small nod of encouragement. My brothers, blinded by their dreams of grandeur, found it almost impossible to resist the thrill of their plans. They leaned forward, joyous optimism radiating from them, unaware of how perilous their situation truly was. With each boastful claim, each ecstatic idea building upon the last, I fought against the overwhelming dread creeping into my resolve. I needed to wait, to bide my time until the moment the truth would explode into clarity, spilling out like freshly baked bread from the oven. They spoke louder, more animated, gesticulating wildly with their hands, bouncing ideas between each other while the shadows threatened to swallow the light. Finally, after a long while, the flame of their enthusiasm flickered slightly as they looked at me, expectant and eager. What do you think? Noah asked, narrowing his eyes slightly, as if he were suddenly aware that I hadn't been contributing as enthusiastically as they expected. This was it, the moment where I stepped out of the darkness and illuminated their betrayal for all to see. I began slowly, the tension in my voice palpable. I think we should discuss how great of a risk this all is. Because just last week, I found some documents. I let the words hang in the air, allowing the weight of their implications to sink in. Noah's face drained of color, and even Ethan faltered, their expressions morphing from confidence to confusion. Documents? Noah echoed, his voice quivering slightly, the bravado stripped away. I leaned forward, placing the papers on the table as if they were a line drawn in the sand. Documents that prove your intentions to siphon money from this bakery. You thought you could conspire without consequences, but there are always repercussions for betrayal. The silence that followed was thunderous. The flickering candlelight became a witness to my declaration as their eyes darted between the documents and me. The tension was a thunderstorm, brewing desperately around us, ready to burst. Grandpa's expression turned grave, standing beside me like a steadfast sentinel, his presence lending me strength. Lydia's right, boys, he said, his tone heavy with the weight of our heritage. This bakery is more than just a business, it's our family legacy. You cannot carve away at the very foundation of our home and think that it will not hurt the ones you love. I watched as their confidence crumbled, the cracks forming a deep fissure. The room felt charged, and I could sense the collective inhalation of shocked disbelief. Their illusions of grandeur now lay in tatters before us, their ambitions sullied by the truth of their deception. What do you want? Noah's voice came unsure, stripped of the previous bravado that had so dominated the air just moments ago. What I want, I said, a new resolve fortifying my spirit, is for this family to remember what it means to work together. The bakery should be a place of love, not one of betrayal. If you truly wish to expand, then it must be together as a family. Or not at all. I could feel every heartbeat reverberate in that moment, echoed only by the soft tick of the clock on the wall, each tick a reminder of time slipping away, of choices made and paths chosen. Stakes had been laid bare, and I could only hope that my brothers would realize the full extent of their misdeeds and come to understand what truly mattered. The choice was now theirs, and to walk away from this moment would be to turn their backs on the family we had built together. As emotions filled the air like the aroma of our baked goods, I sat back, allowing the gravity of my revelation to settle in, ready to watch the reactions of those I had once called brothers. Whether they would step into the light or retreat into the darkness was a decision that would shape not only the future of the bakery, but the very fabric of our family. With my heart pounding in my chest, I stood up and took a deep breath, a wave of resolve washing over me as I prepared to defend my mother. The air felt thick, as if it had absorbed the tension like a sponge and was about to burst. You think you can take control of this bakery without consequences, I said, my voice steady but laced with emotion. Each word sliced through the silence, unexpectedly heavy and filled with an intensity that seemed to electrify the atmosphere in the room. My brothers turned to me, their eyes wide, faces a mix of surprise and confusion. They had clearly not anticipated my intervention, their smugness quickly fading into disbelief. The air suddenly felt cooler, as if reality was setting in like a sudden winter chill. Clenching my jaw, I reached into my bag, my fingers trembling slightly as I grasped the small device that felt monumental in my palm. I could almost hear the thumping of my heart, a reminder of everything riding on this moment. I recorded every word of your plotting, every cruel intention. The weight of my declaration hung in the air, thick with unyielding truth. I pressed play, and the sound of whispered voices filled the room, seeping from the device like a swarm of angry bees, each buzz a painful reminder of their treachery. "Can you believe she thinks this place belongs to her?" One voice, unmistakably from my brother, spat out. My breath hitched in my throat. "We deserve a piece of this. Mother doesn't know what's best for it anymore." Each word echoed painfully, each betrayal rising to the surface like bile. I glanced at my mother, who had been a pillar of silence until then. Her expression morphed from disbelief into horror as she gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide in shock. Tears streamed down her cheeks, glistening like liquid glass, reflecting the heartbreak I felt surging through me. What they had tried to hide from her, the sickening truth of their greed, was now laid bare in front of the family that had once been united in the dream of this bakery. An emotional quake felt like it was tearing us apart, but I was immovable. I watched as my brothers squirmed uncomfortably in their seats, their initially bold demeanor crumbling like old bread. Their confidence shook beneath the weight of their words, and as the reality of their actions sank in, they glanced nervously at one another, as if searching for some semblance of a defense. The ironic taste of victory mingled with my anguish at the sight of my mother's pain. Each tear that fell from her eyes felt like a dagger twisting in my heart. I leaned back against the counter, the familiar scent of fresh bread and pastries suddenly a cruel reminder of everything we had built together. In that moment, I could see the flicker in her eyes, the moment she realized I was on her side, ready to join her in this fight against the injustice that had infiltrated our family. I shifted slightly, drawing more strength from her presence. I stood beside her, gathering every ounce of courage I could summon, the resolve I had carried since childhood welling up like rising dough. "This family means more to us than greed, more than your jealousy. You will not take this from us," I declared, my voice rising with fervor, fueled by the years of late nights spent laboring together to build our dream. The confrontation escalated quickly, emotions crackling in the air like static electricity. My brother's initial shock transformed into a burning rage, their faces flushing with the heat of anger. "You would betray your own blood," one of them shouted, his voice a mixture of disbelief and fury, as if I had torn a wound wide open. The words pierce into me, the bitter irony of betrayal echoing chillingly between us. "We are trying to do what is best for this family." "What is best? To tear apart everything that our mother built because of your envy," I cried back, the passion in my voice lending me an unexpected courage. My words sliced through the strife, sharp and unyielding. The heat of their arguments and accusations clashed with my resolve. It felt like a storm was raging, lightning flashing between us, forces colliding in relentless pursuit. They believed their words were truths meant to right wrongs, but there was a painful clarity around us, a clarity that recognized their lies beneath their claims. I could feel the weight of the legacy we all shared sitting heavily on my shoulders. I stepped closer to my mother, her presence grounding me. "This bakery was built with love and sweat, not deceit," I added, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "Every pastry we create carries memories of our family. Your threats and betrayal will never overshadow that." The tension was thick. A boiling point reached akin to a storm ready to unleash its fury, but I stood tall, unyielding, prepared to ride the waves. I could sense my brothers retreating mentally, their expressions shifting from fury to confusion, as though I had shaken them out of their delusion. Their eyes darted between each other, hesitant, uncertain. Finally, one of them, his bravado flickering like a candle in the wind, attempted to regain control. "Stop acting like this is just about you and Mother. You can't just assume the reins of this place because you feel like it." I took a moment to steady myself, feeling the strength of my mother beside me, the warmth of her unwavering belief igniting the fire within. It's not about me, it's about us. Family. You have forgotten that. This isn't just a bakery, it's a haven for people who come to us for warmth and comfort, and what you're trying to do is tear us apart. All for what? A couple of extra dollars. I knew that I was being emotional, but how could I not be? How could this not feel like a fight to defend our very existence? My mother, watching me with pride, her fingers intertwining with mine as she rose up beside me, reclaimed her place as the matriarch. Her strength returned, even as the shadows of betrayal loomed. She met their defiant glares head-on, her chin lifted, and the warmth of her defiance waked a forgotten spirit within me. Together we confronted them, a combined force of loyalty fueled by love, unbreakable and fierce. "Do you really think you can break us apart?" she challenged, her voice gaining strength with every word. "You have no idea who we are. This bakery isn't just a business, it's our life, our dreams, the heart of our family. I built this from nothing, and I poured everything I have into it." Her words were a testament to her strength, to the heart she had poured into everything. "You think you can just waltz in and rewrite that history? We will not let you." The words hung heavy in the air, settling in like a strong perfume, distinct and unyielding. I sensed my brothers beginning to falter, their conviction slipping under the weight of our bond. The panic in their eyes told me they knew they were losing ground. The truth, that honest acknowledgement of love and resilience, was a weapon that would cut deeper than their jealousy ever could. The vibrant energy in the room became palpable, each person's breath a testament to what was at stake. The shadows of betrayal inside my brothers began to crumble, the fortress they had built on deception cracking under the pressure of our unity. "You don't understand," one of them started, but I interrupted him firmly. "No, you don't understand. We are not backing down. You have betrayed your own family, and you think you can still find peace in this. You will not get away with this." The silence that enveloped the room was deafening, interrupted only by the low, shuddering breath of my mother, the tension in her body seeming to fade as the power of our bond filled her spirit. I could see her beginning to regain that spark, the fire that had built this bakery, one loaf at a time. I took a deep breath, my mind racing with memories of flour-dusted countertops and the smell of fresh-baked bread, all of which reminded me of the joy we shared in this simple place. That night, while my brothers felt the shame of their actions gripping them in a vice, we, mother and daughter, stood united against the tide of betrayal. A fortress built on loyalty and love, we would not falter or succumb. I looked at my mother, and in that instant I understood the true strength of family. This was not just about running a bakery. It was about fighting for the life we had created together, about standing firm against those who would tear us apart for their selfish desires. The decision to take a stand was more than just our duty. It was our legacy. The bakery would remain ours, unshaken by their deceptions as the dust settled from the storm we had just weathered. An unfamiliar feeling bloomed within me, a sense of triumph, but beyond that, a sense of healing. I watched the last remnants of that turbulent night fade away, the echo of my brother's fury still reverberating in my ears, but diminishing like the noise of a passing train. The weight that had pressed down on my chest for so long felt like it was lifting, replaced by something lighter, almost joyous. My brother's despair lingered in the corner of the room, shadows of their actions, but their grip on our family business and our lives faded away into nothingness. I could see it in their eyes as they stood just outside the bakery, their faces turning pale as the realization washed over them. The dreams they had built on deceit were crumbling, and I reveled in that moment. "You were wrong to think you could take everything from us," I whispered, half to myself as I looked at the door through which they had exited. "This is our family, our legacy." The thought sent a surge of warmth through me, energizing me as I glanced at my mother, who stood just across the countertop, her hands deftly shaping dough. "Come here, sweetheart," she said, her tone gentle yet inviting, as if sensing the tumult within me. "Help me knead this. It needs our love." The way she spoke, full of wisdom and care, felt like a balm on my soul. I walked over and took my place next to her, the familiar scent of flour and yeast surrounding us, comforting like a hug. "Mom, do you think they'll ever understand?" I asked while sinking my hands into the cool, pliable dough. The texture was familiar, grounding me. Kneading it was cathartic, each push and fold a release of the pent-up frustration I had been holding. "Will they realize what they lost?" She paused, glancing up at me, her blue eyes sparkling with soft determination. Sometimes, Lydia, people are too wrapped up in their own ambitions to see the bigger picture. But that doesn't have to change who we are. We've got each other, and that is enough. Her words resonated deep within me as the rhythmic kneading matched the beat of my heart. For years, I had yearned for a family that was whole, for brothers who understood loyalty and love, but the reality had starkly revealed itself. I could still hear my brothers' voices, the cut of their words, the betrayal that sliced through the warmth of our family gatherings like a knife. But now, those echoes were softer, fading gradually into the quiet reassurance of the present. "Can you smell that?" I said suddenly, inhaling deeply. The buttery scent of the dough was starting to fill the room, mixing delightfully with the rich aroma of cinnamon from the baking pies in the oven. "It smells so much better than any of their plans ever could." A smile crossed my mother's face, a glimmer in her eyes that told me she understood. "That's because this is real, my dear. What we create here is born from love, not greed. Each loaf, each pastry holds a piece of us, of who we are. It's the secret ingredient that makes everything we create incredible." With my fingers coated in flour, I formed small pieces of dough, readying them for the oven. And to think, just a few weeks ago, our dreams felt ripped away from us. "We put our hearts into this," my mother replied, her voice firm yet loving. "And heart cannot be taken from us, Lydia. Remember, we are stronger now, stronger than ever." It was true. In the days that followed, we began to heal. The bakery transformed into something more than just a place of work. It became our haven, an oasis filled with warmth and solace. The laughter we shared mingled with the clinking of mixing bowls and the soft whir of the ovens. My children would scurry around, chasing each other with sticky fingers, their giggles rising like the dough we baked. "Look at them, Mom," I exclaimed one day, watching my kids roll balls of cookie dough, flour dusting their noses. "They have no idea about the darkness that lurked here not so long ago. Maybe we keep it that way," she suggested, her smile wide. "Let them fill this bakery with light. Their laughter is the best ingredient." Each day that passed fortified our bonds, weaving a complex tapestry filled with love and resilience, making us appreciate the small things. The way the sunlight poured through the window at that perfect angle, how the first batch of bread made crusty golden loaves, and the satisfaction that came when a customer bit into one of our pastries and closed their eyes in blissful delight. I could still hear the whispers of my brothers, but they became mere ghosts rather than harbingers of pain. In their absence, we grew stronger, the very fabric of our family intertwining like the braided loaves we fashioned with our own hands. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink that spilled through our storefront windows, we prepared for the official reopening of our bakery. Everything felt right. "First days are always special," my mother said softly, laying her hand on my shoulder. "What do you think is the secret to making it memorable?" I looked around, feeling a rush of nostalgia mixed with excitement. "Just the two of us together. It always feels different when we're in sync, doesn't it?" Her laughter echoed in the room, brightening it even further. "Your brothers may have sought destruction, but we have built something beautiful from the ashes." As the clock neared 7, the last-minute preparations took precedence. "What about that batch of muffins? They will be a hit, don't you think?" I asked, nervously trying to suppress a tremor of anxiety. "Of course, just like us, sweet and resilient," she replied, an infectious confidence radiating from her. Just then I heard the chime of the doorbell ring, signaling our first customers. "All set," I called to her, and she gave me a nod filled with unwavering support. As the bakery filled with the aroma of baked goods, the sight of smiling faces gave me strength. "Wow, the scent is delicious." A friendly face exclaimed as she entered, her eyes widening at the sight of the freshly stacked pastries. "I can't believe you are back. We've missed your cozy little corner of Cedar Grove." "Thank you. We're so glad to be here again," I said, the warmth of her compliment flooding my heart. "Today is special for us, and we want to share it with everyone." The hours flew by like the evening breeze, each customer an echo of our love and resilience. Flashes of laughter, surprise at the flavors, and the sweet chats filled the space, punctuating the air like musical notes. My children roamed among the tables, sharing joy with everyone, their laughter intertwining with the chatter of satisfied customers. A joyful chaos enveloped the bakery, and for the first time I felt a profound sense of belonging wash over me. We were a tapestry woven from threads of hope and passion, the kind that could withstand any storm. "It feels like home," I said to my mother, her hands still busy arranging pastries on the display. I never thought we could get here. I had faith in us all along, she replied, barely breaking her focus as she worked. And if we stay true to who we are, our home will always be wherever we stand together. Together, we gathered for a moment as the final customers left, a sunset glow filling the shop and illuminating our faces in hues of amber. We stood side by side, my children in front of us, all of us holding the hand of someone we loved deeply. Ready for our next chapter? My mother asked, her tone filled with optimism. I think we wrote the first page together, I replied, my heart swelling as I embraced her. And we'll write many more. It will be a story of love. And so, as the last light of day melted, I realized how far we had come. I finally understood the power of celebrating what we held dear, the resilience of family, the sweetness of victory, and the understanding that healing, love, and loyalty are far more rewarding than revenge. The taste of victory was indeed sweet, not merely because we'd secured our bakery, but because we'd also secured each other. My heart was filled not only with the promise of what lay beyond, but also with the unwavering belief that together, we could face anything. In that moment, standing amidst the warmth of our little bakery, surrounded by laughter and the incredible aromas of our creations, I recognized what it truly meant to protect those who mattered most. The warm, golden light of late afternoon filtered through the bakery's large windows, casting a soft glow over the rows of freshly baked goods. The sweet scent of cinnamon rolls mingled with the rich aroma of coffee, creating an inviting atmosphere as the clinking of utensils and low laughter filled the air. My mother and I had worked tirelessly, kneading dough and frosting cakes, our hands a whirlwind of activity as we created delicacies that would bring comfort to anyone who stepped inside. With each rising loaf and cooling pastry, I felt the weight of recent months lift from my shoulders, giving way to a renewed sense of purpose. Lydia, can you grab that batch of cookies out of the oven? My mother called from across the kitchen, her voice cheerful yet firm. Her hands were dusted with flour, and she glanced over her shoulder, a smile spreading across her face. There was a lightness in her demeanor that reflected the healing we had both experienced. I nodded, my heart swelling with the pride of knowing how far we had come together. As I maneuvered toward the oven, I caught a glimpse of a framed photograph hanging on the wall. It depicted my brothers and me, arms slung over each other's shoulders, faces bright with laughter. A pang of nostalgia tugged at my heart. How easily we once took that happiness for granted. But now, those moments felt like a distant dream, a carnival echoing softly in my memory. Despite their estrangement, I couldn't let bitterness flourish within me. After all, I was determined to rediscover the essence of family, which extended far beyond blood ties. The door to the bakery jingled, pulling my attention back into the present. A customer stepped in, and I instinctively put on my professional smile as the familiar chime meant we were still in business. "Welcome to our bakery. How can I help you today?" I greeted, my face lighting up as I remembered how much I loved connecting with our regulars. "Today is a special occasion," the customer said, her face glowing with excitement as she scanned the display case. "My husband just got a promotion, and I want to surprise him with something sweet." I stepped closer, gesturing toward our finest creations. "How about our chocolate eclairs? They're drizzled with homemade ganache and filled with velvety custard. Oh, and our raspberry tarts are a hit too." I could feel my enthusiasm shine through as she nodded, picturing the delight on her husband's face. "Oh, both sound perfect," she exclaimed. "I'll take a dozen of each, please." As I carefully packaged her order, my thoughts drifted to my brothers once again. It had been months since we had last spoken, and while part of me yearned for clarity, I understood that they were grappling with the consequences of their actions. Wandering the town in search of their own redemption, their shadows seemed to follow me as much as I followed the steady rhythm of the bakery. Each glimpse I caught of them, their hunched shoulders and downturned eyes, was a reminder of how far they had strayed from the warmth of family. After completing the order with a flourish, I sent the customer on her way with a smile that felt genuine. Turning back to my mother, I found her watching me, an expression of pride mixed with concern etched on her face. "You have a gift, Lydia," she said softly as I returned to my station. "Connecting with people like that, that's what brings the heart to our bakery." "Thanks, Mom," I replied, feeling encouraged. "I just want them to feel welcome, especially when things are tough." The truth of that statement settled deeply within me. My brothers had succumbed to struggles I could hardly understand, but it didn't diminish my desire for reconciliation or unity. As we continued to work, my thoughts lingered on family, on how loyalty had been tested and yet remained. I believed it was essential to instill those values in my children. They were my hope for reclaiming the legacy we had almost lost. On long drives to school, I recounted tales of our family history, stories filled with laughter, of my mother and her siblings overcoming hardship together. I hoped they would understand the power of sticking by one another, especially when faced with adversity. Do you think Uncle James and Uncle Kyle will ever come back? My daughter asked one evening at dinner, her small hands wrapped around her fork. Her innocent question struck a chord. The silence that followed was laden with unspoken emotions. I hope so, sweetie, I said, probing deep within myself for a reassuring tone, but the reality weighed heavily on my heart. They're going through tough times right now, but family always finds a way back. I emphasized the word family, hoping to cement that notion in her mind. Will they be sorry? She asked. Some things take time to understand, I reasoned, looking at my mother as she lifted her eyes, reflecting a world of wisdom and empathy. But we can always be here for them when they decide to reach out. The warmth of her hand on mine reassured me that I was on the right path, that no matter how fractured things seemed, the spirit of family thrived if nurtured diligently. That evening transformed into a beckoning memory, filled with shared stories and hearty laughter. Each sound around the dinner table reminded me of the unity we had reclaimed. My mother cleared her throat. You know, she began, her voice wavering slightly, we have all been through so much together. It means the world to me to see us back here like this. Her words wrapped around us like a warm blanket. You brought us back together, Lydia, she said, and the tears that formed in her eyes mirrored my own. You stood up when it mattered most. Her voice was thick with emotion, and I could feel the warm trickle of tears making their way down my cheeks. I grasped her hands tightly, feeling their familiar warmth, a bond built on love, trust, and shared resilience. I could never abandon you, Mom, I whispered with unrestrained sentiment. I promised myself to fight for us, for the ideals we stand for. Memories of our struggle played in my mind, the terror of betrayal, the need to protect what was most precious, and ultimately the hope of restoring our family's spirit. That wasn't just about fighting, she replied softly, squeezing my hands. It was about finding strength in love. You taught us that. Her conviction resonated within the walls of our bakery, each word solidifying our connection, each moment anchoring us to a future filled with possibilities. I glanced across the table at my children, their wide eyes absorbing the gravity of our conversations. They watched us, entranced, as if we were a story unfolding right before them. Family is where your heart is, I told them firmly, recalling each difficult lesson learned along the way. It's not just about blood. It's about being there for each other, especially in the hardest moments. Like when you helped Grandma, my son asked, his innocence cutting straight to the core of our truth. Exactly, I replied, my heart swelling with gratitude. When we are tested, we have to remember what truly matters. We have to remind ourselves that kindness is way more powerful than any hurt. Our hearts are strong enough to heal even the deepest wounds. I want to be like you, Mom, my daughter declared, her eyes bright with admiration. My mother and I exchanged a knowing glance, filled with the shared understanding of how the lessons we carried with us could find a spark in the next generation. I want you to be even better, I replied, my voice soft but steady. Live your life filled with loyalty and respect. Never forget that we should lift each other up. My heart felt full, brimming with hope as I imagined the lives my children would lead, ones defined not by betrayal, but by the power of love and resilience. As the dinner drew to a close, I felt an overwhelming gratitude wash over me, a swell of emotions that prompted a silent promise to cherish what we had rebuilt. The heavy storms we had faced may have tested our limits, but they could not extinguish the fire of our bond. Forgiveness blossomed in the crevices of our hearts, where distrust had once resided. Life continued to bloom in Cedar Grove, the trees in full of life and the air fragrant with possibility. The trials had forged us into something greater, a family stronger together. Every baked good we crafted symbolized our journey together, a celebration of unity through adversity, where each bite held a story of courage and compassion. So, what is next for us? My mother asked, leaning back in her chair, her gaze a combination of curiosity and hope. Next, I echoed, my mind racing with ideas. There was so much more to do, and I felt invigorated by the possibilities. We keep building this, making it stronger. We'll keep inviting kindness into our lives. And who knows, maybe one day, when the time is right, we can welcome them home. I observed my mother nodding, her expression contemplative yet resolute. That's all we can do, dear. Keep our hearts open. In that moment, I realized that our journey was just beginning. I felt alive with hope and dreams, the sound of laughter echoing in the background like a sweet promise of what was yet to come. I understood that while we had experienced dark days, the light of family would always shine through. All we needed to do was nurture and sustain it with love.